What is up, guys? How are we doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Jedi in Exile with us, The Jedi in Exile. We are, excited is an understatement. It's been a roller coaster of emotions,
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
but we are here to talk about the season finale, and I say season finale because we're hoping there's going to be more of Kenobi.
Yeah, it was episode 6, the final one in the season. Maybe the first season, we'll call it, but maybe the only season. Um, let's not be sad, it's over. Let's be happy that it happened because I feel like this was a phenomenal end to this series. It really was. It was everything that we've wanted since the 19th of May 2005. It really is everything that, as a prequel fan,
Oh,
everything you've wanted.
it was the most ridiculous fan service to all the
Yeah,
prequels fans
yeah.
going.
It was creme de la
Unbelievable.
creme. There was so many cool references. Um, oh yeah, there's just so much to run through. I don't even know where to begin. So, right, okay, Matthew, let's begin. What were your thoughts on just this episode, and then we'll move on to the series
The
as a whole.
series as a whole. Okay, so this episode, unreal. Uh, I'll be honest with you. I looked at how long it was before it started, and
There were
thought,
rumours of an hour 33, which I was quite excited about.
yeah. So I looked and was slightly disappointed that it was like, I'm sure it's like 56 minutes or something like that. Which, when you then take off the recaps and the intro, then you take off the like 5 minutes at the end, I was like, we're probably actually going to get about 50 minutes worth of viewing, maybe just under that. And so I was like, oh, a little bit disappointed. And then I will be honest, whilst I was watching it, I was like, this is how they're going to end it. I can't believe this is how they're going to end it. Looked, and we were only halfway through the episode, and I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
I
they've
did
they've
too.
put so much in to this episode. So I'm just going to say the Reva redemption arc, everybody saw coming, right? That it was like, it's unbelievable. Everyone knew it was happening. Everyone knew it was happening. Didn't detract from just everything else that was going on within this. We got the Vader Kenobi like rematch part 2, but with Kenobi actually like, I watched it. I know we talked
He was
about
the
it.
aggressor.
Yeah, so we talked about it last week where I was like, oh, seeing Ewan McGregor like flicking blaster bolts away with his lightsaber, I was like, oh my god, Obi-Wan's back. This was unreal. Obi-Wan is back, and he is here to stay, ladies and gents. Like, he was unreal. The fact of, and here's just a little nod for those people that really love Star Wars, the opening stance for his combat was
Oh
prequels
yes, the stance.
Obi-Wan,
I've got that
lightsaber
written down in a
overhead,
note. Yeah.
arm out, like pointing.
It
Unreal.
really it really reminded me of Rebels Obi-Wan when he faces Darth Maul. Just that, like, he's older man and he just holds it above his head, doesn't he? Like that, and puts the two fingers in front like that. It's just, oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, at that point, I was like, I don't care what else happens in this episode. I could die happy. I could die happy right now.
You know what? For me, it really, I felt really vindicated because after the first probably 3 episodes, when he first fought Vader, all the fans and everybody was going on about how, Obi-Wan's so weak, Vader could have crushed him. I like that they make the point that Vader says your strength has returned because Obi-Wan goes through, his own kind of redemption. He's basically shut himself off from the Force. He's, a crumbled man, basically. A shadow of his former self from 10 years ago. And Leia and seeing Anakin again, who he now knows has died. You know, Darth Vader has killed Anakin Skywalker.
So I
It's
want to.
that kind of acceptance.
Just because you've brought that up, I just want to touch on that
Yeah.
like particular scene.
Yeah.
So a couple of really key things that I want to pick up on. I've gone back, I've seen like stills, I've rewatched the scene a few times. But so clever from a cinematography point of view that whilst they're having that exchange, there's bits where the light from the lightsabers, Anakin / Vader has got blue light from Obi-Wan's lightsaber on him, and at the point where he says, "You didn't kill him, I killed him," it then goes to only being red light, which is unreal. I really liked, and I think the show will get some hate for this because I think they'll say that they've ripped the scene off. But I really liked that we got a very similar scene to the one with Ahsoka in Rebels, where it's kind of that you can see part of Anakin under the helmet. It kind of humanizes him a little bit more, which makes that even more emotional to go through. So I wanted to pick up on those just while we were talking about that particular scene.
I felt the main thing I took from this episode is that it was the perfect, and even though it's 10 years before, it was the perfect prequel to A New Hope, because when Obi-Wan tells Luke that story about Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine before he turned to evil, helped the Emperor hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights, he betrayed and murdered your father. It really goes to Obi-Wan had almost like, in this episode, he lets go of Anakin Skywalker.
Well, there's the bit.
He knows that.
There's the bit, isn't there? So this is something else that I had down in my notes, right? And this perfect segue into it is, throughout this, he's been saying Anakin when he talks to him and when he does everything. And in A New Hope, he says, only a master of evil Darth rather than anything else. And you see the switch between him calling him Anakin and saying Anakin, and when Vader says Anakin's dead,
he says the boy I knew is lost.
Yeah,
doesn't he? He says that line.
But then as he says, I can't remember whether it's like you've lost
says,
or
like,
whatever.
see you later, Darth.
Yeah, he says Darth at the end.
I really liked it, and I'm gonna go on record here and say that I don't think they should do another season of Kenobi, because I feel like
the story's told.
That's the end. That's the end of that now, and it's like a really good finish for then picking it up again in A New Hope. I think they've kind of ticked all the boxes of how we've transitioned from Episode 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi into
where we are
Alec
in
Guinness
Episode
4. I feel like that was perfect. I don't think like I don't feel like they should tinker with it anymore. And I feel like this with a lot of things. I felt like this with the sequels, that sometimes you have to say, right,
Enough's
a story
enough.
is told. Yeah, we're done, and you've got to draw a line under that. And I think as much as we all want Kenobi content, and I love Ewan McGregor as Kenobi, I thought this was the perfect episode to end Obi-Wan's story on as we know it.
So I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'll be honest. I think you're right. This was kind of the perfect sort of closeout. It had the kind of ending of, and we'll talk about the very end in a second, but it kind of had that ending of Obi-Wan being introduced to Luke, so he now knows who he is, which means it makes sense within the confines of A New Hope.
Yeah, because Luke doesn't really know Obi-Wan well in A New Hope, does he?
No,
he's like
no,
that
just
old
says,
hermit Ben.
Ben Kenobi. So he's obviously been introduced to him at some point, but doesn't know very well. So I thought that was good and handled really well. I totally agree with you that was kind of everything wrapped up nicely. All of the, and I'm gonna say plot holes, they're not really plot holes, but it's what fans have jumped into calling them, with the way that Leia is with him, and I know we criticised that a little bit in the first couple of episodes. And just kind of some of the other things that became a little bit confusing, I guess, from this storytelling have been wrapped up, and I feel like by going into a season 2, they're just going to open the doors to then confusing that stuff again. If they then wrap it up again, that's fine, but I feel like they have wrapped it up nicely and neatly now. The one thing I would say is, I'm with you, I'm torn, because I'm like, I really want Kenobi content, but there is other content that they can create. We've got the Ahsoka series coming. We've got other stories that can be told. But I think if they do if they do follow through with a Kenobi season 2, it needs to be a completely new story.
Yeah, it can't involve
It
Vader
can't
or
be Vader.
yeah,
It can't be like him and Luke. It can't be him and Leia. It needs to be a standalone
yeah,
Kenobi, the things that he is trying to deal with.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think the whole I don't see the Leia thing as a plot hole anymore because having gone back and watched A New Hope, Leia's message says, Obi-Wan Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you for his help. Without that second sentence, that first line, yeah, after watching Kenobi series, you'd be like, well, hold on. Ben Kenobi, you're the one who rescued me when I was 10 years old from a these kidnappers. But actually the second line, it's related to her dad. So she's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. So for me, that's just ended it. It's not a plot hole anymore. But I feel like that I think they got everything right in this series. And listen, we love Dave Filoni on this channel. People know that. And if you don't know that we love him, go back and watch all of our other videos, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. We love Dave Filoni. John Favreau's now on board as his kind of partner in crime, and Deborah Chow. They've done such a good job with this series because in just 6 episodes, and I think we sometimes forget that they've done. We have gone through so many emotions with Obi-Wan in this short space of time.
I
I
describe
think Leia's actually a great character. People find her, um, people don't like the character. I think she's a bit too sassy or bossy.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
That is what Princess Leia is, and so I think she was the perfect character, and I liked it that it wasn't. They could have easily done it where we had a young Luke, and because the saga obviously is centered around Luke is the hope, Luke's the one who's going to take on the Empire, he's the Force sensitive one. So it was nice to have that based on Leia. It was nice that this series had just enough nods to the prequels. Just enough. Things like, we see Bail Organa. When he appeared in Rogue One, I almost fainted. And it's little nods like that just come back. And the whole voice box thing in this episode with Vader and Anakin, where sometimes it's Anakin talking, sometimes it's Vader. I thought that was just so, so good. And there was one other thing I wanted to pick up on, which I've seen pictures of this in comic books of Obi-Wan in the Death Star, raising his arms beside him, and a load of blasters from dead stormtroopers lift up and start shooting at more stormtroopers. And it's almost like what he did with those
the
rocks,
rocks.
which you never, I have to say, I never, in the prequels, I never get the impression that Obi-Wan's a master of the Force.
So I'm
He's
gonna
not.
follow up on
He's
this.
not.
Mate, go on.
He's not shown as powerful as, say, like a Mace Windu or an Anakin in lightsaber dueling. He's not seen as powerful in the Force like a Dooku or a Yoda. He's. We never really see him. Yes, he fights Grievous, and he does obviously beat Anakin, which is a hell of a lightsaber fight. But that was more like emotional, and he knows Anakin, he knows his fighting style. He's never portrayed as like this great Jedi Master. He's almost like he's good at everything, but not a master of anything. But this just showed how powerful he was with all those rocks. First of all, when the rocks were on top of him, and then when he shot out of the pit, and he was all those rocks firing at Vader. It was it was just absolutely brilliant, and that final redemption of him, being one with the Force again, and of course Qui-Gon at the end. How it was like Qui-Gon's his line he says, which is going to become famous now. Like, I've always been here. You've just not been ready to see me. And it's
It
like
was
that whole thing.
him building to it.
He's got his clean robes now. He looks like a Jedi again. Like he's
So
back.
I wanna roll it back, right, to the whole thing about Obi-Wan, Anakin, the Force. So I think there was a book came out fairly recently that is you probably know because you tend to keep up with that sort of stuff more than me. That is about Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Brotherhood.
There you go. I knew
Yeah.
you'd know. So I'm sure it's from what I've seen, but there's some stuff floating around that basically says that within some literature, and I'm fairly sure it's that book, it's summed up perfectly that Obi-Wan reaches into the Force and Anakin reaches out for the Force. So it's Obi-Wan reaches into it and becomes one with it and uses it, which is like the whole with the rocks. You didn't see him grabbing individual rocks. He was kind of, it was flowing within him. Whereas Anakin / Vader very specifically tries to harness the Force, which is why you get the one, like, you know, like arm reaching out, focusing on one object, throwing it. And I just thought that was really great kind of way to sum that up. And then that was like the perfect kind of analogy for that, shown to us in really kind of blatant like way, that I thought was really cool. So I agree with you. I feel like that was perfect, but you very briefly touched on it, and then I kind of rolled it back. But Qui-Gon, my God. So
yeah, we'd been kind of waiting to see
there was
whether
going to
he'd
be
in it,
something.
whether it was just
There
his-
was going to be
whether it was just
something.
his voice, and it's the whole thing about he's been talking to Qui-Gon probably for 10 years. You know, he's been trying to talk to him ever since Yoda said, "How to commune with him, I will teach you." He's been probably talking to what he feels like himself, but trying to talk to Qui-Gon, you know, asking for help or inspiration. And finally, at the end, when he's kind of, I suppose, let go of that guilt that he's got, because clearly those first 10 years he probably blames himself for how the galaxy's ended up. He blames himself because he's the one who says to Yoda, "I will train the boy," when the council didn't want Anakin to be trained. He's the one who stuck his neck out on a limb to train Anakin, and he's the one who feels like he probably should have seen the signs or, you know, done something differently. So I feel like he's probably let go of that guilt, knowing that Anakin is dead. The Anakin that he knew is gone, and that's the kind of stepping out over that kind of line in the sand, if you like, of being, you know, truly one with the Force.
No,
And so that's why Qui-Gon has decided to reveal himself, and it was just great that we saw Liam Neeson, and they've done it. He hardly aged a day. This was no Hayden Christensen in
No,
episode 5.
It was incredible. I said to you just before we came on to record that at the point that I saw that part of the episode, I was like, oh, they will have just got a body double in with, like, done the hair from the back, and we probably won't hear him say anything, and it'll be like that fade to black. So it's like, it's finally here.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you hear the voice, and I was like, okay, so they could have got Liam Neeson, like, in the world that we live in, at home, record some lines into a microphone, cleaned
Which
it
he
up.
did at the end of Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, so like all of that kind of stuff, cleaned it up, and then just got a body double in so that it. And then he turns, and I was like, oh my God, it's actually happened. Now they were gonna do something. There was not necessarily with Qui-Gon, but they'd kind of left these little things that were saying, we're gonna do something. We see you, fans. We're gonna do something for you. Like, here it comes. And there were tons and tons and tons of rumors that there was gonna be something to do with Qui-Gon. It made sense for it to be Qui-Gon, based on the fact that we know that, like, he talks to him in the caves and all of that kind of stuff, right? So it just, honestly, it topped off such an incredible episode for me, and also such an incredible series. I think for me, this was an incredible episode, 100%, and the best episode in the series. Purely because we got so much payoff, everything's been building to it, but just the series construction as a whole was incredible. Deborah Chow's done such an incredible, I keep using the word incredible, I don't know what else to say.
It seems like a lifetime ago that we were watching Reva and the Grand Inquisitor in episode 1 on Tatooine trying to look for that Jedi.
And it's actually been
to show
4
that was
episodes.
it's only been like 3.5 hours of screen time. And yet so much has happened. And yeah, just what they've crammed into 6 episodes, I think is incredible. To use your word.
I think, just absolutely incredible. Honestly, I'm speechless at the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. The episode was just absolutely class. I mean, it really was. And listen, we weren't expecting Battle of the Heroes type choreography, but it gave us just enough that we're satisfied with everything, that Obi-Wan was powerful again. And we can talk about everybody laughed about, oh, how could Vader be the learner last time he met Obi-Wan after episode 3? And it's like, clearly that wasn't the fight of the century. Clearly they were going to have another one. It's almost like I'm sticking both middle fingers up at fans right now who slag this off after episode 3 because you could clearly see they were building to something
All
and building this character of Obi-Wan. We're delving into emotions, and can I say, with all that Disney have given us from taking over Star Wars, and I think we'll do this as a video because I'm not going to give my answer at the moment because I'm very, very torn. I'm very Natalie Imbruglia at the minute. But if you could go back in time, the content that we've got, so sequel trilogy, things like Mandalorian, Kenobi, Rebels, all the series that we've had from Disney, all the content, would you do you regret having Disney? And I think that's going to be a video that we do separately. But it's really made me think recently because, as you know, I'm such a sequel hater. Um, and I'll openly admit that I do hate the sequels. I don't think they're good at all. I don't think they're good for Star Wars. But it's content like this that really brings me round to like Disney get it. And whether that's Disney or whether that's Dave Filoni or whoever, the execs that decide this. But I just have to say, I doff my headphones and say bravo Disney
I
because they've done an absolute fantastic job at this series, I have to say.
I just think that the people that were hating on this series early doors, and we caveat all of the reviews, so we picked out some quite nitpicky. That's difficult to say when you're tired. Some quite nitpicky things that we disliked in the first part of the series, right? That we do that because this is a review. If somebody on the street asked my opinion, I wouldn't be saying to them, "Oh, well, it was great, but," and going into such granular detail, because the whole point is we're reviewing it and we're giving our kind of our thoughts on it. It just goes to show that all the people that were going, "What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that?" You need to let a series finish. You need to let a series run
And then judge it.
and then judge it, rather than individually go, well, but they haven't told me what happens with this, and this doesn't make any sense, and this doesn't happen. And particularly, like we say it all the time, Filoni has a plan, always has, and the more stuff that's brought out in different parts of the saga, in different timelines and different areas of the saga, the more you see the plan pulled together, because you see that this links to this over here and this, and there's characters shared here and here. And I just think that this again shows that they know what they're doing, and that Star Wars is safe within the hands of these people, and they really are building kind of what I'm going to call the dream team of the new Star Wars creative era, with Taika Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard, Deborah Chow, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni. If there's anybody that I've missed who's been instrumental in some of the series, apologies.
I've done this with. I feel like they were all the people from who directed the Mandalorian first season, and they had that roundtable discussion with all the directors. It was almost like that was their trial to see whether they were good enough because Bryce Dallas Howard has been given. She did the Book of Boba Fett. Taika Waititi's got the film that's coming out next year. It's going to start production the end of this year. Deborah Chow clearly has got the Kenobi series. So there's just so much that and these directors get it. They're doing other Star Wars, content, and they seem to be really real Star Wars fans. They're not just good directors. They get what the fans want, and that with a franchise like this, that to me, is number one. You've got to get what the fans want.
And by that, we don't mean write a story that every single fan is gonna love, because that's never gonna happen, right?
No.
So we've said Star Wars fans will always find something to hate. It's one of our defining factors.
Disney have done well though, because they could have easily done stories around the sequel trilogy that would have helped them with their characters that they've created. But instead, and this is what I mean about the nod to the fans, Dave Filoni, John Favreau, Disney realised that the fans want stories back in that prequel era, or they want stories, with The Mandalorian 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so that we see the old characters coming back. We don't necessarily want to see sequel trilogy stuff, and that will come. We will want to see. I know we've got the Resistance animated show, but we will want to see the stories about the Resistance and the stories about Finn as a stormtrooper and Rey, after she's a trained Jedi. We will want to see that at some point. But right now, the fans wanted this period between episode 3 and episode 4 covered. We wanted to see Kenobi back. We've been crying out for it for years and years and years. And that's why I think they went away from it after Solo. Solo, they realised that wasn't quite what we wanted at that point. And they've
I
really
think
worked
if
on that.
they had released that now, this many years later, I think it would have got a very different reception
Solo?
to the reception that
You
it
think
got.
so?
Yeah. Just based on where it's set, when it's set. There's renewed calls for a Solo 2 after this series, like floating about the internet now. Massive.
I think Disney are going away from films, with Star Wars. They
I do
realise
as
they
well.
can get so much more.
I do as well, and I do think that
series.
maybe is the way to go. But that said, there is also something very special about going and sitting in a cinema, turning your phone off, being locked away from everything else that's going on in the world, and sitting down and experiencing something like this on a big screen with a professional sound system, which is why in America they're doing some limited runs of this entire series, episodes back to back as cinema showings. But I think it's incredible. The one thing that I do just want to pick up on is the fact that not only do they give the fans what they want from like let's throw Qui-Gon in, let's do this, let's do that. They know that Hello There has become a bit of a meme, an iconic kind of line. And so to throw that in when Obi-Wan first meets Luke was just good on so many levels.
That's his line to R2, isn't it, when Luke gets knocked out by the Tusken Raider?
So it fits the character, because the character said it multiple times. It bridges that gap between between Obi-Wan saying it in Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. But also, like, when that was written into the script and somebody gave that the green light, they know for certain that there are so many prequel fans out there going, oh my god, he said it! As much as it was serious in the context of how he said it, they know that in the back office when they were writing that was written in because they were like, we're just going to meme ourselves, doesn't matter.
We've got to get one in. I have got a quick Hello There story. So on Sunday, it was Father's Day. Wife and kids and myself went out to a theme park, as you do. And me and my little boy had queued up for a while for this ride to go down a slide. Two people in front of me, the attendant for the ride, walked over to them and said, hello there. And they just went, hi. And I looked at him and I was like, holy crap, did he just tee them up? And he looked at me and smiled, and I was like, damn it, he's going to say that. He's going to say it to me. He's going to say it to me. So the people in front of me, one person in front of me, he just come over and was like, hi, and put him through, and I was like, he's forgotten it. He's left it. Walks over to me and goes, hello there. So, of course,
it was General Kenobi.
General Kenobi. And we bonded over that.
There you go.
So
if you were that random slide attendant, then please get in touch. Please get in touch, because we would love to hear from you. I think we're at the perfect point to kind of let's wrap up and give scores for the episode, and then let's just have a quick kind of chat about series as a whole and kind of what we think.
Yeah. 12 out of 10 for the episode, because I gave episode 5 10 out of 10. This is 2 above this.
Yeah.
So 12 out of 10 if it's possible.
I can't fault you. I can't fault you,
Yeah,
and I can't argue.
It's 12 out of 10 for the episode, and the series as a whole. Now we've seen the whole series, I have to say it is a 10 out of 10. I've enjoyed this more. I'm just thinking back. So I've enjoyed this more than Book of Boba Fett. And I know Book of Boba Fett isn't everyone's cup of tea. I liked Book of Boba Fett. I just like Kenobi as a character, and we've got lightsabers. So I'm going to like it.
This
I
felt
like
more
this
Star Warsy, right?
Yeah, it did. I like this more than Mandalorian, again, just because I like Kenobi. It's like this was an extension of Revenge of the Sith. This was almost like this whole series could have been like a credit scene at the end of Revenge of the Sith, like 10 years later. So yeah, I loved everything about the series. I thought that I really thought, and I said on my predictions last week, I really thought that Reva was going to end up being like Leia's guardian on Alderaan, and that they could have just ended her story by saying she gets blown up, obviously when the Death Star blows up the planet in episode 4, that like Obi-Wan is the Luke's protector on Tatooine, Leia needs one on Alderaan, because I went through, there's a story in Legends that there's another Jedi who goes to protect Leia on Alderaan. I really thought that was going to be her end. But people didn't like Reva as a character. I didn't particularly mind, even though it was an obvious storyline.
I think even though it was an obvious storyline,
can we
it was
just say
told
Aunt
well.
Beru? Yeah, it was, yeah. And can I just say Aunt Beru with the big guns? She's a badass. Like, I liked that. You don't see that in episode 4.
I need a Baru backstory. I need a Baru backstory. When she learned to shoot like that?
Yeah. So no, I thought the acting and it was actually really good, because Star Wars does get criticised for acting. I thought this was the best acting I've seen in Star Wars history. So the whole series gets a 10 out of 10 for me, but this episode especially was 12 out of 10.
So I completely agree. I think we kind of, I'm not going to say we messed up with our scoring system, because we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And actually,
No.
if this episode had been on a par with last episode, I would have ended the series equally as happy. But this did genuinely take what I thought was pretty much a perfect episode and just step everything up a gear. So I completely agree with you. I think 12 out of 10 is a fair score, as stupid as that sounds. And 10 out of 10 for the series. I would agree with you of all of the stuff. So I'm going to say that season 1 of Mando was off the charts because it was essentially unprecedented. What we were seeing was like this brand new concept. It was a Star Wars story that was not going to be focusing on a Jedi. And was going to be focusing on characters that we'd never met before and we knew nothing about in live action, and so that was great, and that was incredible. Season 2 was good because it started to pull in some of that older stuff. I think this was just on if you stand them up side by side and say, if season 1 of Mando was released now, having had Book of Boba Fett and having had Kenobi released, and it was the first kind of thing that we were seeing of it, I don't think it would get the same sort of reception that it got. I'm not saying it's bad.
Listen,
I'm just saying if you hold them up
that,
against each other.
Yeah, the success of The Mandalorian has meant we've had a Kenobi series. Because if The Mandalorian had flopped, then we wouldn't have a Kenobi series. And I don't think that Disney would have done a Kenobi series as their first series. So I think we're lucky that Mandalorian season 1 and 2 went down so well that Disney have realised, actually, yeah, we want series, because Solo wasn't well reviewed, and so the Kenobi film got
Canned,
shelved.
Essentially,
yeah. Yeah. So it was, if Mandalorian had flopped, then we probably wouldn't have this. So we've got props to the Mandalorian guys for making that work. So yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
Incredible, some may say.
Incredible. Breathtaking.
That is what we thought, guys, of this episode and the series as a whole. Let us know down in the comments what you thought, whether you agree with us. Do you think our ratings were too high? Do you think that our ratings were too low, if that's possible, with a 12 out of 10? What did you think? Did you enjoy the series? Have you hated the series? Are you excited to see what comes next? Do you think Kenobi Season 2 will go ahead and will be as good? Let us know. We love to hear from you. Other than that, guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff to make sure you're keeping up to date with all of the content that we are bringing you. And all that is left to say is we will see you all real soon in the next one.
May the Force be with you guys.